Broadcasting live from the Albay PIO News Center, providing you the most exclusive news update from all over the province. This is News at 12. In the local scene, Albay Vice Governor Farid Ako has been elected as the new Regional Executive Director for Bicol of the League of Vice Governors of the Philippines. She was chosen during the League of Governors 101st National Assembly on July 19, 2025 at the Manila Hotel and will now represent the Vice Governors of Region 5. In her Facebook post, Ko expressed humility and gratitude, stating she is committed to serving her region with dedication, integrity, and devoted heart. Also showed gratitude to fellow vice governors for their inspiration, guidance, warm welcome, and said she would carry those moments with her throughout her public service. The League is a nationwide organization that provides a platform for vice governors to collaborate on local governance, legislation, and public service issues. Ko's election is seen as a recognition of her leadership commitment and her potential to help the League of Governors achieve its goal in Bicol region. In other story, the provincial government of Albay has assured its readiness for disaster response during the upcoming typhoon season. Albay Governor Noel Rizal confirmed this after the third quarter full council meeting of the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, Albay Public Safety and Emergency Management Office last week. He stated that relief goods and assets such as delivery trucks have already been pre-positioned for pre- and post-disaster response efforts in case of calamities like typhoons or heavy rains caused by the southwest monsoon. In an interview, Rizal said that they are preparing for positioning goods and coordinating with the Provincial Engineering Office for emergency deliveries. He also mentioned that they are continuously assessing hazards and risks in each area, including flood, lahar, and landslide-prone zones to ensure appropriate preparedness. Rizal reiterated his directive for Barangay Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Councils to remain on full alert, especially during periods of heavy rainfall or flood. In the national scene, motorists are in for another oil price hike up to 10 or 1.10 pesos a liter effective today. Diesel prices are expected to increase the most this week by 1.10 pesos per liter, while kerosene will rise by 70 centavos per liter. Gasoline prices, meanwhile, will increase by 40 centavos. Petrogas, Z Oil, and Shell Philippines announced that they would adjust their pump prices Tuesday at 6 a.m., followed by clean fuel at 4 p.m. Last week, Jetty Petroleum President Leo Bellias announced that pump prices would increase this week, citing signs of improving demands. In other story, a Pasig court has denied televangelist Apollo Kibuloy's bid for temporary liberty in the qualified trafficking cases against him, citing his role as the central figure of authority who subjected to sexual exploitation a minor who was a member of his Kingdom of Jesus Christ religious sect to sexual exploitation. The 23-page order dated July 20 denied Kibuloy's petition for bail, as well as those of his co-accused Jacqueline Roy, Crescente Canada, Pauline Canada, Ingrid Canada, and Sylvia Simanes. The six are charged with qualified trafficking, especially for human trafficking, sexual abuse, and labor exploitation. Kibuloy, in particular, was identified as the central figure with the actions of the other accused carried out for his benefit and exaltation, all under the illusion of his spiritual service and divine mission. The court noted that most significant act in the case was that the victim was forced to engage in a bodily connection ministry, a practice that involved massaging Kibuloy and being sexually abused by him. The judge, however, emphasized that the order resolved only the bail petitions filed by all the accused and would not determine the outcome of the pending cases. In seeking bail, Kibuloy argued that the complaint against him failed to establish a strong guilt that he committed the crimes he is accused of. Earlier this year, the same trial court denied his motion to be placed under house arrest. Kibuloy, who is currently detained in the Pasig City Jail, has been charged with abuse and human trafficking in the Quezon City and Pasig City courts. He also faces criminal charges in the United States, including conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion, sex trafficking of children, and sex trafficking by force, fraud, coercion, conspiracy, and bulk cash smuggling. In other news, Senator Lauren Legarda introduced Senate Bill number 518 in an attempt to establish the Young Farmers and Fisherfolk Challenge Council, aiming to attract a new generation of agri-entrepreneurs and address the impending labor shortage in the Philippine agriculture sector. Nearly 3 out of 10 farmers and fishermen still live below the poverty line, which makes agriculture a less appealing career choice for young people, the senator emphasized. To promote sustainable and contemporary farming careers, the proposed measure provides tangible interventions, including startup capital and financial support, access to voluntary health, retirement, and calamity insurance, as well as pathways to land access, technical training, and inclusive education. It also promotes the adoption of climate-smart and digitally driven agricultural methods and ensures young engagement in policy making. The program also targets equitable and inclusive participation, with at least 30% of participants being young women, indigenous youth, residents of barangays, and those from conflict-affected areas. And in the news outside the country, the Taliban's detention of Afghan women and girls for allegedly not adhering to the government's dress code sparked alarm from the UN on Monday. The Taliban administration published a directive in May 2022 advising women to cover their entire body with a buraq and only to expose their eyes. Since regaining power in 2021, the Taliban has imposed strict regulations on women's attire and public conduct, most notably morality laws that prohibit them from exposing their faces outside the house. The UN condemned the arrest of women and girls in Kabul between July 16 and 19 who, according to authorities, had disregarded instructions on how to wear the hijab or Islamic headscarves, alarmed the mission in Afghanistan. The UN mission called on the Taliban leadership to resign policies and practices that limit the fundamental freedoms and human rights of women and girls, including the prohibition of education beyond the 6th grade. The Vice and Virtue Ministry of Afghanistan said in January 2024 that it had arrested women in the Afghan capital for wearing a bad hijab. Abdul Ghaffar Farooq, a ministry spokesman, did not specify the number of women detained or the definition of a bad hijab. The United Nations Timeline mission stated that it was investigating allegations of mistreatment of the ladies and extortion to secure their release. After NATO and U.S. soldiers left Afghanistan in August 2021, the Taliban seized power. Since then, the Taliban government has enforced its vision on Islamic law while pursuing international recognition. And Russia was the only nation to recognize it in July. And finally, in the news outside the country, to comply with international humanitarian law, 25 nations have issued a united statement requesting that the war in Gaza end immediately and accusing Israel of failing to allow enough supplies in. Israel has insisted that it is providing enough aid to Gaza during the battle. Still, international humanitarian agencies have consistently stated that this is not the case, and the UN has documented malnutrition levels in Gaza. Australia, Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Japan, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom are among the countries whose foreign ministers have signed the statement. The Gaza Minister of Health, which Hamas runs, said that the majority of those killed were gathered near the Zikhem border between Gaza and Israel. The call to action was issued Monday in response to an incident that occurred Sunday in which at least 81 Palestinians were killed and another 150 were injured while attempting to obtain food. Israel rejected a 25-nation joint statement, according to a statement by Oren Morston, a spokesman for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because it is disconnected from the reality and sends the wrong message to Hamas. And that's all for the news at 12, July 22, 2025. We'll be back tomorrow for more news updates. And thanks to our news writer, Albay PIO. And on the technical side, Ted Bobis. And of course, our Provincial Information Officer, Walter Bagdato. And under the supervision of our Governor, Governor Noel E. Rosal, I am Greg Hallare. Thank you for subscribing.